Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are having a fabulous day already. I don't know if you are working today or if you are scurrying around getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday, but whatever it is, I hope you've started off well and continue that way. If you are just stumbling on my page, my name is Donna. I am a mom, a nana, a girlfriend, an activewear fanatic, a best-selling author, and I am a grad student studying for my Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health Counseling. And I started Wellness Wednesday. Good morning, Miss Kayla. I started Wellness Wednesday because I've had a lifelong battle with depression and anxiety, and I have learned very much that sharing my tips as well as encouraging others to share theirs with me have made the journey that much better and easier. And sometimes, even though we hear things like 8,000 times, it sometimes takes that 8,001th, 8,000, is that a word? To actually make it click, because it clicks when we are ready to hear it, right? So if you are here, let me know you're here so that I can say hi. If you don't see this till afterwards, let me know in the comments that you saw it. And let's get started. First, let me show you my awesome shirt. I thought it was appropriate for today. It says default setting gratitude. It just goes right along with what we're going to talk about today. So I hope you enjoyed our 3-part series on things that get us in trouble. We talked about triggers. We talked about comparison, and we talked about expectations. If you didn't catch that and you want to, let me know and I will tag you in the comments of those videos. But if you just scroll back, you will find them, or if you go to my page and look at my videos. So before we start a new 4-part series about movies, yes, movies have a wellness message too. We're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving. So last year, I was just getting this Wellness Wednesday started, and I talked a little bit about what's on our Thanksgiving plate and how to enjoy Thanksgiving without overdoing it. And if you would like to see that, I'm also happy to tag you in that video too. However, today I want to, good morning, Miss Sarah. Today I want to talk about turning that one day into a whole season instead of just one day of Thanksgiving. So gratitude is defined as a habitual focus on and appreciation for the positive aspects of life, and making it a habit is a fantastic idea. So while I was researching for this, and yes, even though I know a lot of things about gratitude, I do like to research for new information because I learn while I'm encouraging you to learn, right? So I found a really cool article from a few years ago that Mark Nation published on LinkedIn, and it screamed exactly what I was thinking. So I want to start by sharing his story. So this is quoted from Mark Nation, and the article I found was a small portion of something that was published in another publication. So this is Mark speaking. The title of this is "We Love All of Our Lights. The Crazier the Better." Good morning, Danielle. Good morning, Erica. Mark says, "I had found myself in Manila, Philippines, in what was my first ever October-November business trip outside of the U.S. And here I was, gazing with wonder at the extensive display of lights on practically every house and small business throughout this gritty, densely packed city. These weren't just any lights, they were Christmas lights. Little did I know just how much the Filipino taxi driver would enlighten me on this humid autumn evening. He said, 'We just love Christmas. You know, Filipinos are a very religious people, and we always look for any excuse to celebrate. We can think of no better reason to celebrate than during Christmas. So we light up the night with every color you can imagine, because it reminds us constantly of the reason for our hope, even though many of us have endured so much difficulty.' In a nanosecond of American ignorance, I replied, 'But what about Thanksgiving?' And this is something I've actually heard a lot lately. What about Thanksgiving? The moment those words escaped my lips, I sunk down in the back of the cab seat, laughing quietly while secretly chastising myself in my mind. Of course they skipped Thanksgiving and went straight into decorating for Christmas. Thanksgiving is a U.S. celebration. To my own naive Western eyes, however, the whole October Christmas light spectacle, safely resting in the realm of gaudiness, still looked a little funny to me. My taxi driver chimed in with a smile. 'You Americans have a special occasion that marks the origin of your country, making November a special time for you. We don't have that in November here, and we're not too big on Halloween. For us, it's all about getting to Christmas as soon as possible.' Then he said something that will stick with me forever. We don't need another holiday getting in the way of Christmas, he said sharply, because we try our best to treat every day like it's Thanksgiving. Treat every day like it's Thanksgiving. What an incredibly simple yet profound idea. Suddenly, I had an epiphany. They got it right, and Americans are missing it completely, I thought to myself. It's like we're suffering from a holiday version of waiting for Friday all year, every year. What would it look like instead if we really did try and treat every day like it's Thanksgiving, and Christmas too, for that matter, like two sides of the same coin? So that's the story. I thought it was amazing, and I hope there's something about it that sticks with you. It sure did me. So why is gratitude or Thanksgiving important? Well, according to Purdue University, gratitude can be especially helpful when dealing with issues of comparison. If you remember, that's one of the things that get us in trouble. We spend our lives looking for that perfect moment and often miss what is perfect around us, which kind of falls into that expectations discussion we had last week, right? It's funny how this all fits together. Gratitude is also strongly associated with well-being by helping individuals deal with adversity and stress. Good morning, Miss Paula. Build better relationships and feel more positive emotions in general. Psychology Today cites a study showing that regularly and deliberately recording your blessings improves your mental health. So what you focus on is what you will find, right? Good morning, Tina. We've talked about that before. If we focus on, if all we think about is a yellow Volkswagen Beetle, more than likely we're going to see more yellow Volkswagen Beetles on the road than we've ever seen before, right? I had a business coach that encouraged us to go to bed every night thinking about ladders, climbing ladders, looking at ladders, moving ladders, and to see how long it would take us to actually see a ladder. And within 3 days, I saw a ladder. So what you focus on is indeed what you will find. And the same is true with gratitude and good things versus bad things, positivity versus negativity. So how can we live every day with an attitude of gratitude? Well, we can start by slowing down. Just slowing down, and not rushing, even if it's just for a few small minutes, just slowing down and not rushing through the day and rushing through everything we're doing. We often, like on Thanksgiving, we're often so busy taking photos, and I'm terrible about taking photos. I will take them like once or twice. Good morning, Melissa. And then I will forget about photos. So I often don't have a lot, but I also find that that means that I'm paying attention to what's happening around me and I'm enjoying the moment. So slow down a little bit and don't be so focused on recording memories as you are on experiencing them and living in them. So celebrate life every day. Every day is a gift, not just Thanksgiving. I love how Mark puts it in part of his article that I didn't read, which is that if you're still fogging up the mirror, then that's something to be thankful for. Another way to put it that I hear very often is if you woke up on the right side of the soil, then you definitely have something to be thankful for. So celebrate life every day. There is something good in every day. We've talked about this before. We get caught up in looking for the big, bodacious things, and we forget to be thankful for the simple, smaller things that are around us, like hearing children laugh, warm meals in our belly, having a roof over our head. Number 4, speak it and share it. Find a way to bless someone else each day with random acts of kindness, compliments, kind notes, or tell them that you appreciate them and why. Our mail lady, you know, I have an online business that involves a lot of shipping, right? And there were multiple occasions where I would find very large packages kind of shoved in our mailbox. And it made me kind of cranky because I didn't want things to get ruined in the process of mail delivery. But then I met our mail lady and it kind of changed my attitude because this woman, she's about this big around and she comes here and she delivers some fairly large packages that are probably the size of her. And we'll just say she's been around a very long time. She drives one of the very oldest, more original types of mail trucks, and she just keeps going. And after meeting her and talking to her, I've just learned to really appreciate her a lot more than I probably have any male person in my life. If I hear her come up to the door or pull in the driveway, I really try to be out there to help her. And the one day that I couldn't, I felt just awful because we were having twin mattresses delivered. They were the kind that are rolled up in the box. And when I saw them after she had left, I felt awful because these things were literally as big as her. And I felt horrible that I couldn't get out there and help her. So it's funny how, when I was focused on the packages being shoved in the mailbox and why are we doing this, I was very cranky about this person. But when I met her and spoke with her, and helped her a little bit, I became much more appreciative of what she's doing every single day, not just for me, but for everybody, right? So definitely speak it and share it. Tell people that you appreciate them. I've been spending the last month trying to figure out what kind of a gift I can get her because it seems like tipping my mail carrier in this case just isn't quite enough, especially when she's in that hot mail truck all the time. So if you have some ideas, let me know. In any case, as I said, tell people you appreciate them. If you don't have the ability to, if you're not in a situation to do random acts, if you're not out of the house a lot, compliment others, reach out to somebody you haven't talked to in a while, tell them you appreciate them. It really can change the day for them and subsequently for you. So, consider the time with those you love as precious and not wasted. When we are really busy, we have a lot on our plates, our to-do list for the day is this long, and even though we know we're never going to get past this, sometimes it can be an inconvenience if somebody pops by or calls you or demands part of your time. But especially if they are your loved ones, it's important to remember that they are not taking up time you don't have. And this is something I'm sometimes guilty of. They're not taking up time you don't have. That is precious time that you may never get back. And there's a reason why it's happening in that moment. So it's very, very important to consider that time as precious and appreciate it, and be flexible enough to adapt accordingly. Time in nature every single day. This morning I stood outside. There was a beautiful, beautiful sunrise outside. I posted it in my stories. It's very difficult at times to slow down and just look around and really just soak in, especially with nature and whatever your beliefs are. I believe that God created everything. So everything I see when I'm outside is his artistry at work. Whatever your beliefs are, most different religious affiliations, spiritual, anything that you're doing has some kind of an appreciation for nature, Mother Earth. But taking a few minutes to actually literally, not just figuratively, stop and smell the flowers, to watch the birds, to look at the clouds and see what kinds of shapes they might be making that day. If they look different than yesterday, just taking that few minutes out to deep breathe the outside air and truly appreciate everything that's around you. It is a fantastic way to find yourself grounded in gratitude in that moment. And that's got, we talked about slowing down, the same kind of thing. Finding a few minutes to just be present in that moment makes a huge difference so that you can be grateful for what's going on in front of you instead of constantly looking for the next thing or looking back at what was. So also share your abundance from worldly goods to wisdom to whatever. Invite your friends over to eat or to share a meal with you. Share a big lunch with someone. At one point in time, I was starving. I needed lunch. I knew I couldn't eat the whole Cuban sandwich. So I needed a place to eat too. So I stopped by somewhere where I knew I could sit for a few minutes and take advantage of my lunch and eat it quickly. And I offered half of it to the other person there. And they seemed to really appreciate it. So, share a big lunch, help someone move a piano. Even if you are not in a situation to share any kind of your financial abundance, there are ways that you can just lift a small finger, hold a door open for somebody, anything like that, that's going to make their day better. And one of the things that I love, and if you've been on here before, you've heard me talk about it, is paying for the person behind you in the drive-thru. For me, Kayla, I was trying not to single you out. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So for me, and I hear a lot of people, there's a lot of arguments that go on about this on Facebook about paying for the person behind you in the drive-thru, most commonly with something like Starbucks, or, you know, if they're in this type of vehicle, they probably didn't need you to do that. But for me, I love kind of doing things in secret. And paying for the person behind me and just kind of watching the rearview mirror. It doesn't matter what they're driving. It doesn't matter if I'm in the Taj Mahal of fast food restaurants drive-through, right? What matters is the act, because no matter what you perceive their situation to be from the outside, you have no idea what's going on in their head. They could be having the worst day they've ever had in their life. That whatever they're buying in that drive-through could be their last $5. And if you pay for them, it could actually change their day. I actually heard a story a few months ago about someone who was in a drive-through and they were actually starting to contemplate their life a little bit. And not in a good way, if you get my drift. And I don't want to get down a negative or dark rabbit hole, but they were sitting in the drive-through and they were really seriously evaluating their value in our world. And someone in front of them paid for them for whatever they were ordering, and it did in fact change their day because it had never happened to them before. And it just, sometimes a simple small act like that can change the way somebody's looking at humanity in any given moment. So definitely share your abundance. And if it's not, again, financial, then there's little ways that you can lift a finger, volunteer for your community, help somebody, maybe pull over on the side of the road if somebody's standing there trying to figure out how to change a tire, and do a random act of kindness. Share your abundance, share your energy, share your smile. It's that simple. You can simply share your smile if you're walking past someone that looks a little lost, and sometimes that's all it takes. So definitely share your abundance. Savor things. So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about taking advantage of nature and slowing down and stopping to smell flowers or look at the clouds. Savoring things kind of is actually becoming sort of a current push. And mostly it's in terms of food, like savoring your food. I know a woman who lost a lot of weight, not by necessarily intentionally cutting down what she was eating, but learning to savor whatever she did eat and take her time with it and enjoy the flavors and chew slower and just simple things like that. So if we savor those smells, the warmth of the sun, those awesome memories with a loved one, whether they're here or not, and we just take time to revel in them and savor them, sometimes that makes all of the difference, and it can make a very small experience like eating Chinese food that much better. Or if you're on a diet and you get that one little piece of chocolate and you take your time with it and you think about how it tastes and you take smaller bites, that's what they mean by savoring. They being the experts, I guess, because I am not one. But it really makes a difference. Sometimes we get in a hurry, so we wolf down our meals, even if we're at the family table. Even if we're at the family table having dinner, we're in a hurry. Everybody's trying to wolf it down and get to the next thing. So slow down and savor your food, your moments, your memories, and your experiences. Keep a blessings box. Okay, so last year around this time, I issued a gratitude challenge. I'm reaching over here to grab my box. If you've watched before, you may recognize this. This is my blessings box. It is very, very full right now. Now, admittedly, have I remembered to do this every day? No. But clearly, I have remembered to do it for most of the year. When you reflect on your blessings or record them, as I said earlier, according to Psychology Today, deliberately recording your blessings can actually improve your mental health. So this is my blessings box. This is the stack of paper that I got in a goodie bag somewhere. And whenever I remember, I take a piece and I write down something with the date. Sometimes it's kind of a vague little hint that'll help me remember whatever, and I shove it in here. And it's getting pretty full. I can't really shake it that much anymore. So this is a great way to do it. And then at the end of the year, you can open it up and physically look at all of your blessings for the year. And that's what I'm going to do is sometime around the first of the year, I am going to take all of these out and I'm going to neaten them up in a nice little stack, and I'm going to read through them. And I know because I've done this before, I am going to experience many tears of joy, many smiles as I go through my blessings box for the year. And then I'm going to start it over because I think it's one of the coolest ideas I ever ran across. I think I found it on Pinterest several years ago. But if you were part of that gratitude challenge that I issued, then your box hopefully is full or overflowing. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about going through those blessings at the end of the year. And I would encourage you to do it again. So another way to do that is to journal. You can keep a blessings journal where every day you sit down and write down the good things that happened the day, or the good thoughts you had, so that you are focused on, even on the worst days, there's something good that you can find. Like I said, even that you're still fogging the mirror, as Mark says, or you woke up on the right side of the soil. There's always something. Another way to do it, another suggestion I found, is to make it a habit when you take your shower. When you get in the shower, reflect on something that, if your showers are early in the morning, reflect on something that happened that was good the day before. If your showers are later in the evening, or you're a twice a day showerer, good morning, dawn, showerer, is that a word? I'm making up my own stuff today, y'all. If you're a twice a day showerer, then you can, when you get in there in the evening, reflect on something during the day that you're grateful for, and tie those two habits together, because you shower pretty much every day, right? And then, just like I said, find a way to take time every day to reflect on what you're grateful for. And then some recommend that you do it at night, because the idea here is, if you make it one of the last things you do before you go to bed, the mindset that you bring to bed defines how you sleep. Now, I have been known to do gratitude in the morning. I'm not so good necessarily at doing it at night. I get tired. I fall asleep on the couch. Eric falls asleep in the chair. Good morning, Roy, or whatever. And not so good about taking that 2 or 3 minutes just to find gratitude before I go to bed. So I want to try it, and I'm going to check back with you, and I'm going to let you know how it affects my sleep, because lately I've been having a lot of trouble getting to sleep, not as much staying there once I'm there, but a lot of time getting to sleep. And there's a lot of science behind meditating on your goals or visualizing your goals before you go to bed, because then you marinate in that all night. So certainly gratitude is something worth marinating in all night, right? So consider, if you can only find 3 or 4 minutes a day to record or reflect on the things you are grateful for, then consider doing it at bedtime, and see how it affects your sleep after that. So those are just, I don't know, that was like 10 to 12 ideas of how we can live every day with an attitude of gratitude. And by doing that, we are taking it beyond just one day of Thanksgiving, and we are practicing Thanksgiving every single day. And I know personally for me, that has changed my life. I own an online business. I've been in it for 4.5 years. Every single new order I get, I am just as grateful as I was for the very first one. I am grateful for everybody around me. I have learned, it took me 50 years, but I have learned to find gratitude in the small things, like the beautiful sunrise this morning, the birds in the bird feeder throughout the day, just so many little things. The fact that my hibiscus is flowering in November, just so many things. So remember that what we focus on is what we get. Dawn, I used to go over test information. Yes. See, there is some science to this. And it used to be there. Dawn, you just made me think there were some old Archie comics, that I had growing up. And I distinctly remember one of them. I think it was, the two guys, Archie and Reggie, always fighting over Veronica, and, Ronnie stuck a tape player with a message that was playing over and over again. It was at the time called subliminal messaging, but there's some science to that, to whatever you're thinking about before you go to bed, or if you have something positive repeating on a recorder or whatever. Maybe you go to bed with meditation, Bible verses, guided imagery, whatever. There's some science behind that kind of absorbing as you sleep or as you drift off to sleep. So yes, Dawn, I've heard of that before, and I'd be curious to know if you felt that worked for you, if you ever paid enough attention to know that doing that made you do better on those tests versus not doing that. Especially since I have exams coming up. Feel free to share. Okay, so things I want you to remember. Don't approach it, and I need to remember too, don't approach it as transactional. When you go into something with the attitude I'm going to do something nice to this person because it's going to come back to me, that tends to make it somewhat transactional. So do it to feel good. One of the best feelings I experience is when I'm looking in that rearview mirror in the drive-thru and I see somebody's look of shock, or somebody's face go from almost angry to just a big, brilliant smile immediately. And sometimes they wave, sometimes they don't. I don't ever let it be known that I'm looking, and I rarely wave back. Why? Because it's selfish giving, basically. One of my mentors calls it giving selfishly. And I do it because I want to feel good, and I feel good by making them feel good. So I don't really require thanks for that. But it sure changes my day. So don't approach it as something transactional. Do it to feel good, not to get something in return. If you need some ideas, there's the paying for the person behind you. In times of financial abundance, I have been known to sneak into stores. I don't even know if layaway is still a thing. So it's been a few years, and ask the cashier in the layaway department if there are some smaller layaways under a certain amount that I could just pay off. I never got to stand around and see those reactions, but I can imagine how I would have felt when I wasn't in times of abundance and I would have gone to pick up layaway for Christmas and found that it was paid off. So think about those kinds of things. There's lots of sneaky little things that you can do. If you don't want to be in the spotlight, you're not looking for that recognition. Dawn, awesome. That's good to know. I'm gonna work on that for my upcoming exams. Anything like that. For me, it's a lot more fun to do it in secret, so that nobody knows that it's me. It's a lot more fun, and I don't often get to see the responses or the reactions, but every so often, something comes up somewhere that lets me know. Where do you bank? Erica, you're funny. Every so often something comes up that lets me know that I'm doing well. You know what I mean? That it got where it needed to be. So I don't want to go into too much more detail, or I'm going to have all y'all following me around all the time. So practice makes perfect. This is the next thing. Is this hard? We are often wired to think and act and react negatively. So it takes practice to kind of rewire that brain, but it's totally possible. I'm a living example of that. And you have to practice it every day. So start by reflecting on something positive while you're in the shower. Something great that happened the day before, or journaling something you're grateful for. Or if you're in a really ugly situation, look around for the helpers. Look around for the bright light or the lesson or whatever, so that you're focused on those and not whatever terrible thing is going on in that moment. And if you practice daily, I promise it'll get a lot easier, and you'll just start automatically doing it most of the time. You deserve feeling grateful and happy on a daily basis, and that's absolutely true. And that's why daily practice is important. So not just once a year, not just on Thanksgiving, not just on Christmas, but every single day. We love celebrating Thanksgiving. We love the family gatherings. We love the food. And some of us love what it stands for, and others maybe not so much. Good morning, Melissa. But it should be something we practice on a daily basis. If nothing else, then for our own sanity and our own wellness. So just do it every day. Do it every day. And the final thing I want to leave you with is, we talked about expectations, and I affectionately referred to it last week as great expectations, which put me in mind of Charles Dickens. And I quoted him last week, but I'm going to quote him again in this context, which is, Charles Dickens wrote, "Reflect on your present blessings, on which every man has many," and of course consider the time, so every person has many, "not your own past misfortunes, of which all people have some." So reflect on your present blessings, on which every person has many, not on your past misfortune, of which all people have some. So that's the final quote I'm going to leave you with from Charles Dickens. I think it ties in our last 3 weeks of conversation nicely with today. So I will say, if you found this helpful, please share. Who can't use a little extra gratitude at Thanksgiving, right? So if you found this helpful, please share. Maybe we can start a movement of being grateful every day. Maybe a new gratitude challenge for this next 2024 year. Next week, we're going to talk about wellness messages that can be found in movies. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. In the meantime, I am so thankful for every one of you that watches while I'm on, or watches afterwards, or watches in secret and never says a word. I'm so thankful for every one of you. If you need a little help with gratitude, I've been doing a gratitude challenge in my VIP group. We are in the final days, of course. It was month long, but you can always come in there and go back and find all the gratitude challenge posts and comment on each of them. And maybe it'll help get your mind rolling about some simple and unusual things that you can find to be grateful for in every single day. So if you want in and you want to check that out, let me know. No strings attached, absolutely. But we do usually some kind of challenge every single month. And this month, of course, just happens to be gratitude. Imagine that. I am thankful for you as well, Melissa. So again, I'm thankful for every one of you. I hope you enjoyed this Wellness Wednesday. If you did share, please feel free to comment. If you have topics you would like to see me cover, send me a message and I'll see where I can work them in the future. And in the meantime, have an incredibly safe and happy and gratitude-filled Thanksgiving. I love you all. Have a great day. Bye.